Hey guys, Troy here, back with another video today. Today, back by popular request, we're going to be doing another Who Should You Buy segment. And on that note, real quick, if you guys enjoy, I don't ask before every video, but if you would subscribe, if you enjoy the videos, I would really appreciate it. It helps the channel grow. I'm just like you know, I watch certain YouTube videos all the time. I'm like, forget this guy, I'm not going to subscribe. But if you did subscribe to me, I would really appreciate it, and thank you so much. Today, the cards we are going to be comparing is Jayson Tatum's Prizm Rookie PSA 10 and Trae Young's Prizm Rookie PSA 10. Usually I try to keep the players in the same draft class, but they're only one draft class away, and believe it or not, I think you can ask kind of some of the same questions about them. So you guys know how this goes. Right away, let's take a look at Jayson Tatum's graph. Okay, so you see here with Tatum, once again, a similar trend as we've seen with a lot of the cards we've looked at, but a little different in a sense too. So obviously very cheap for a long time, as with almost any card, was going for around $400 back in May, and then hit a high of $1,100 back in August, near the peak of the bubble. And now you're able to see sales as low as about the $500 mark. And the exciting thing to see here now is finally, guys, you're able to see somewhat of an upwards trend. We were doing these videos for the longest time and it was always downwards trend. And, you know, not to toot my own horn, but like I said, we're starting to see things pick back up. And the good thing I like about this Tatum graph is the fact that you're not paying a huge premium if you're buying right now. If you look hard enough, you do some searching, you can pick up this card for $500. Where even if you had bought a long time ago, let's say in like, you know, like I mentioned, May, $550. So now could potentially be a great time to buy, especially considering it's taken a hit of almost 50%. But all right, that's enough on Tatum's graph. What about Tatum the player? So right off the bat, let me say what I love about Tatum. He is the prototypical perfect fit for today's NBA. Versatile, tall, long, athletic, can create his own shot, can play defense. You actually haven't seen it much for the Celtics, but I think as he gets older, he's gonna be able to play more of the big. I'm not sure he's ever gonna be a 5, but at the very least, we've already seen he can play the 4. Seems to be a smart player, a guy who really wants to work hard, and it's nice that he's part of a winning organization. And I could really see him staying there for a long time. And being with the Celtics, he'll at least always be in the conversation of being in the playoffs, potentially having a shot at a championship. Now, he's definitely had his bad moments too, right? They lost to the Heat this year, a very beatable Heat team. Of course, you can't put it all on Tatum. He's a young player. He played well in that series. But in my opinion, we haven't seen, you know, the big Jayson Tatum, you know, like winning moment yet. And actually, funny enough, I just said all those great things about the Celtics, but I do not actually love his situation right now, at least in terms of winning a title. So he's undoubtedly a very talented player with still a lot of potential in front of him, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with his career in the next couple of years. Next up, we're talking about Trae Young. So let's take a look at his graph right here. So usually I just say the graphs are similar, but this one to me right off the bat looks a lot different. Was very cheap for a long time, but he was really cheap actually in May. You were able to pick up this card, Prizm, in a PSA 10 for $200 flat. Got up to a high of around $700 and had a short pullback down here to $400, but has since seen a sharp upwards trajectory actually, selling for over $500. Its most recent sale being at $520. So what's interesting about this graph right here is you're actually paying a large premium for Trae Young versus what you could have got him for in May, or obviously way before that. And there hasn't been too much of a pullback off his price is high. It's went down a little bit, but you're really just buying a mini dip right here. But all right, that's enough about Trae Young's graph. What about Trae Young the player? Now, Trae Young is really exciting. The way he pulls up from anywhere, I think kids love him. I see him just getting a ton of attention as we go forward. He's on a young, exciting team, plays with my guy John Collins, he's got Cam Reddish, he's got a bunch of exciting players there. And he really runs the show in Atlanta. So I just see his points per game averages getting crazier and crazier. But we also have to talk about the bad. He is atrocious at defense. I really think that's an understatement. And to be honest, it's not really his fault. He's just small. There's not much he can do out there. But honestly, it's different. We pick on a guy like Harden and his defense. Man, at least Harden can lock in when it's, like winning time. Trae Young is just basically a traffic cone out there. But offensively, he's dynamic. And people have made the early Steph Curry comparison. People really question Steph Curry. Oh my God, this small little guy, you can't lead a team to winning just with shooting like that. And Steph Curry did it after, as they're right, Trae Young's doing some good things. He hasn't been perfect. But Steph Curry really, really struggled when he was a young player, when he was in his second year in the league. Now, I don't agree we can just draw those two comparisons. I think it's super premature and not fair at all to just be like, oh, Trae Young did better than Steph Curry in his rookie year, so he's going to be better than Steph Curry. Or even that you can build a championship team around him. I think we don't know any of that yet. But what I do know about Trae Young is, at the very least, next year, I don't think we'll have reached the point where people are like, sour on him in a sense. Once players reach a certain age, people are like, okay, where's the championship? I think collectors, the hobby, is just going to enjoy Trae Young's success next year. So that could potentially make for an easy flip. But all right, with all that being said, who would I buy right now? You may saying, oh, they're different players, different draft class, all this stuff, but I just thought it was really interesting. You can get, their prices are basically exactly the same right now. And if I were to choose right now, I would actually go with Jason Tatum and his Prism PSA 10 as who I would buy. Now, that might be very surprising to some of you guys, especially after how much I've pumped up Trae Young on this channel and how little I've talked about Tatum. But that's the good thing about this series. I go into it with an open mind. I don't make the video already knowing who I'm going to pick. I look at the data, I think about their situation, their team, and then I decide. Now let me get the bad stuff out of the way on Tatum first, because I kind of held back in the earlier section. In my opinion, he hasn't shown me really anything yet. To me, I'm not confident at all that he's a championship #1 option. He had some big moments against the Heat that I didn't think we had really seen before, but someone like Luka, you can see it's just in him, that killer, that #1 option. If you put him in Boston, I really think there's a good chance that they actually make the finals. But Tatum, he got a lot better this year, but especially last year and everything, he has a little bit of, passiveness to him. And his one-on-one game is much improved. But I do not think he's the same level of ISO scorer as some of these other guys who are winning championships. Here we go, I'm going to contradict myself again. I think he is a winning basketball player just because of what he can do defensively, how he can impact the game in so many different ways, even if he's not scoring. And to me, I think he would be a perfect #2 option on a championship team option. I'm just not completely sure I see it yet. But let's get into more why I picked him. First of all, the graph. The things I don't like to do. I don't like to pay a premium. We saw an extreme high that he could easily get back to with the sharp pullback. And we don't do everything just based on graphs here. That'd be dumb. But if you look at Trae Young's graph, it just doesn't really look like a great time to buy. And I talked about Jason Tatum potentially not being a #1 option. I'm definitely not sold as Trae Young as a #1 option, and maybe not even a #2. I can see Jason Tatum playing with, Anthony Davis, LeBron, Steph, Giannis. You could name anyone, and Jason Tatum would be a perfect complement. But I think people are still trying to figure out how is Trae Young fitting into a championship team. And if I'm going to be fair, I got on Tatum for not having, championship level success yet. Trae Young hasn't even reached the playoffs or even been close. So while I think he's really exciting, he's more marketable. I think he's going to have, he potentially could have more fans across the nation than Tatum. I just think the combination of how much is uncertain with Trae Young and where his graph is at, I would rather go with Tatum. I still think Trae Young is actually a pretty good buy, but I think Tatum is going to be championship relevant for the rest of his career, and I don't know that for sure about Trae Young. Now, once again, there's concerns with Tatum. I mentioned before, I don't like his situation. Speaking of bad defense, Kemba Walker is not going to do it at all. And I don't know what moves they make with that roster to lead them to potentially winning the championship. I really do think they need a superstar next to Jason Tatum to potentially compete for a championship, and Kemba Walker is not it. But like I mentioned, Jason Tatum for me is locked in as a relevant, super impactful player, and him being in Boston, I think staying there for a long time is going to be great for his card prices, and he's going to have a ton of fans and a ton of really dedicated fans. So for the same price, I'll go with Tatum over Trae Young at this exact moment in time. But as always, guys, that's just my opinion. So let me know what you think down below, who you would buy, what you think they're going to do next season. And also make sure to like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. We're going to keep the videos coming. Thanks again.